So, Dean, let's go to the big question. Why do you
Right.
think so many people are in search of their purpose today?
I think that a lot of stuff changed in that one moment when we said, okay, we're going to be gone for a couple weeks or a couple months, and we'll come back for this thing called COVID. And life is real short. You never know when that moment's going to say, pack your things up in 2 weeks, and it's going to be 3 years, and you never see people again. So I think people came out of that like, I'm not going to live a life that's just my only reason for this is to make someone else a bunch of money or make me a ton of money and have a bunch of toys. Well, I want a meaningful life. I want meaningful work. I want to make meaningful friendships. I want to have meaningful time with my family. That's why it's important for me. And I think that's why it's important to people now.
You are listening to Personalization Outbreak, a podcast about the collapse of traditional corporate standards in today's more personalized world. I'm Glenn Llopis. I'm a leadership strategist, author, contributor to Forbes, and founder of the Leadership in the Age of Personalization movement. On this show, I'm interviewing executives across multiple sectors to find out how the balance between standardization and personalization can exist. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Personalization Outbreak Podcast. Having purpose can mean a lot of things to different people. But we're now living in times of tremendous change, uncertainty, and unknowns. I mean, wouldn't you agree that people are spending more time reflecting on what matters to them, their families, and on their future? I mean, we're in a society now in search of purpose that is reflecting on what their true and our true core values are and what they mean. Now, our guest today is Dean Carter, and you're in for a treat. See, Dean sees purpose as an opportunity during these times of uncertainty. He's been a change agent for well over 3 decades in the corporate world. In fact, while at Patagonia, Dean earned the reputation of transforming the human resources function to foster a regenerative employee experience. Now, Dean currently serves as the Chief Purpose Officer at Guild, a female-founded B Corp dedicated to unlocking opportunity for America's workforce. So before we get started, please click the like button below, share it with your colleagues, and subscribe to our YouTube channel and social media at Glenn Llopis. Hey, Dean, I've been waiting for this one, man. Thanks so much for your time.
Glenn, I'm really looking forward to this. Yeah, I'm been thinking about this, and I'm really looking forward to our conversation. Yeah.
Well, thank you, and I'm sure that our listeners and those that are watching on YouTube are looking forward to it as well. So, Dean, let's go to the big question. Why do you think so many people are in search of their purpose today? What's changed? Why does this matter now?
I grew up as a kid of the '80s, so and I don't know if you remember the '80s, but the purpose was not anywhere on the radar in the '80s. And the purpose was to have as much fun as possible, to acquire as many things as possible, and he with the most toys was the winner. And as you know, like you don't take those toys with you when you go. So I don't know. I think that a lot of stuff changed in that one moment when we said, okay, we're going to be gone for a couple weeks or a couple months, and we'll come back for this thing called COVID. Put your mask on, or don't put your mask on, or do whatever. And I just remember people. It was because it was an instant moment. Really, it happened so fast, and people were boxing their things out. It was like the end of the world at Patagonia. We were just like taking our things out, and I think that those would ended up being, really 3 years of separation, of inability to go to weddings, inability to go to people who were loved ones that were dying, inability to your grandmother passed and you couldn't even say goodbye, the inability to connect with friends. You have really small pods of closeness, maybe that these are the 4 of you were going to make a commitment not to infect each other.
Yeah.
And there were just, and then the only way you could connect to people was, by video and by Zoom. And this whole new world opened up of just like sitting alone in your room and Zooming people that you had lunch with and dinner with, and you're Zooming your own family. I just think that we came out of that going, what the heck? Like, what are we all here for in the first place? And life is real short. You never know when that moment's going to say, pack your things up in 2 weeks and it's going to be 3 years and you never see people again. So I think people came out of that like, I'm not going to live a life that's just my only reason for this is to make someone else a bunch of money or make me a ton of money and have a bunch of toys. And I think we hear that from people. I want a meaningful life. I want meaningful work. I want to make meaningful friendships. I want to have meaningful time with my family. And I can talk about that, and how we even measure those things at Patagonia or in other places. And I think it's important that we typically measure like engagement, which is like this tool to make sure that we get as much discretionary effort from you as possible. And I think people just said, you know what, I'm going to give you the time that I think is appropriate. And that's why I'm going to live my purpose. I'm going to do it with the great work, be happy with that. I'm going to live my life. We can talk about those things, but that's why it's important for me. And I think that's why it's important to people now. But that's a long answer.
No, and I love that, Dean, because essentially what you're communicating here, as I interpret it, is, we've been given a set of metrics in corporate America, and most of those metrics have really been about what we do, not necessarily who we are. And now you're saying it's about how people feel and what matters to them and what makes them feel as if they matter, and how that can have a reverberating effect on how others think about what's going on in their lives and in their day-to-day. So that made a lot of sense. And, when you go through something as devastating as what happened during the pandemic, it's an awakening, but, it always comes back to the same things that we always hear. Why is it that something bad has to happen when we start thinking about the things that really matter to us? And I think that what you've done, and I think the enthusiasm around why you're here today, at least why I'm very enthused about it, is that for someone to say, I am the chief purpose officer, this is a whole other level of ownership. Why did that matter to you, Dean? And what's your purpose? Because for you to own such a title where it's part of your identity now. I mean, that's a big responsibility. And I think as I see that, as I, prepared for our conversation today, you really made me think of what kind of purpose am I owning up to? And I think this is part of your message to people, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Well, there's my fundamental purpose in my life is to leave things better than I find them. That's basically leave companies better, leave human beings better, leave my family better, leave the world better. Like, what am I doing every single day to make sure that I leave things better? It came from a moment with my dad, who I was mowing lawns for a friend, and I borrowed a neighbor's lawnmower to do it. And so I mowed a few lawns in the neighborhood, made a little money, and came back and I was covered in grass and sweaty. And it was Texas, so we were really sweaty and covered in mosquito bites. And Dad said, "Did you return the mower?" I said, "Yes." And he said, "Did you clean it?" I was like, "No, it's covered with grass." And he said, "Do you fill it full of gas?" I was like, "No." He's like, "Dean, go back. You never have things that you don't return better than you find them. So go and clean that. Be sure to fill the gas, because you're gonna need that mower again maybe someday." And they were kind enough to loan them to you. And I feel like there's a lot of things like that are kindly loaned to us that we need to return to us. People kindly loan their experience at work to me, so I have a responsibility to return them to whatever it is in a way that's better than I find them. And if I don't do that, wow, I've failed. And I really ask those questions. So when I learned what purpose was, actually from something really, really good, which was Patagonia, like what a true purpose is about. Like, Patagonia's purpose is to save the planet, period. And it wasn't a slogan. And I've seen so many places that it's a slogan. It feels good. And like everyone goes, "Oh, this is our purpose. It's this." And Patagonia was so deeply felt, and it felt good every single day to do it. And I realized what purpose fundamentally is: why you exist. Why am I on this planet? Why do I exist? And that's a deep question. So if I feel like I exist to leave things better than I found them, then yeah, I'm going to put purpose in front of my title. When I go to a place like Guild, which is to help people with their careers and people who feel like they're locked out of opportunity, and give them education for free, and they move up. That's leaving a lot of humans on the planet better than we find them. That's my fundamental belief. I want to leave this profession better than I found it. Um, and I even began to ask that question, by the way, like in the engagement survey. As a result of working for this company, I believe that this company gives back equal or value to our life. That question we tested at Patagonia. We did that as a result of a benefit that we put in. I tested again at Guild to go, okay, was this uniquely to Patagonia, like this answer to this question? As a result of working for this company, I feel like it gives back equal value to my life. No company asks that, by the way. That's not a question that's on the typical engagement survey. It's not in, StrengthsFinder or, 12 things that you ask. But I did. And we did the survey again, and we found out that question correlated more to engagement, energy levels, and belonging than any of the 72 other questions that we asked. Culture Amp was blown away. They were like, I can't believe this. This is like, we haven't seen a question that correlated so much to this. And I wasn't surprised, because fundamentally, I think that's what people want is, I feel like you care about me because you give more equal value to my life. And we found this, like we peeled this back at Patagonia. We literally asked these questions after we implemented a 4-day work week. And we did, questions before and then 6 months after. And we asked questions like this: as a result of working at Patagonia, do you have a better relationship with your spouse? As a result of working for Patagonia, do you have a better relationship and having spend more time with your kids? As a result of working at Patagonia, do you have more time to buy healthy food? Do you have more time to spend time outside? The answer was like so far much more yes after this than any other thing. And I realized, wow, like that was the most substantial thing I've ever done, is if that one thing, and all people said, who says I have a better relationship with my spouse as a result of working for a company? Nobody. And if we can do that more, like the result of working for this company, I feel like the things that I value, what do you value most in your life? Your relationship with your kids, your relationship with your spouse and your family. Those are what you value, not the values on the board of the company.
So this is the whole point, Dean, is, and why I've been discussing this for, I think I'm on year 6 now, is that we've been so stuck in standards in how we do our work, how we lead, how we conduct business, that don't really ask what matters to you about how we work, how we lead, how we conduct our business. And what you pioneered here was a way of thinking that says, are we as an organization impacting who you are as a human being, as an individual? And are we putting enough effort to make that kind of impact on your life in general? And so it doesn't surprise me, but keep in mind why this happened. I came prepared with a point of view that I've researched, is that when you've been told what to do inside the box you're given your entire career, and then someone finally says, what matters to you? Did this impact you? Don't you think people are going to jump up and say, I'm in? They've been waiting for that. And yet here we are post-pandemic, and we still can't figure out the basic fundamental necessities of people, which is purpose. So, Dean, how do you guide someone to help them find their purpose? I mean, this is a big question, not so easy to answer.
It isn't an easy question to answer. Like this fundamental question, like, why do you exist? Like that is like, what do you want to do? I think the question is like, as a result of being on this planet for the either short or very long time that we're going to be here, I what is your impact? And do you want to have an impact? Some people are like, I don't need the impact. I'm just going to be here. That's okay too. But I do feel like a lot of people go, yeah. And when I talk to people and you pause for a moment, you're like, think about it. What is your purpose? After thought, they come and go, you know what? This is kind of what I want to do. This is what I want to leave. This is my legacy. And either could be on a kid or a community. There's a person that I met who is the head of HR for Meyer Grocery. And her name is Michelle Hall. And I want just to shout out a little bit to her because this is like a great purpose. So she found out that a local hockey rink was closing and they were going to lose this in Minnesota. So what she did was this is like a center for the community. Like and we need to like save this thing. So she bought it because it was going to turn into a warehouse and had volunteers from all over the community rebuild it, restore it, put in the hockey rink. And now it's a community central for everything. Her little purpose of like saving something for the community. Now kids are there learning to ice skate. They're learning to play hockey. It's where people meet. It's a place that everyone's super proud of that they built. That was her purpose, was like, I need to preserve this for this community, and everyone like their lives are all better for Michelle Hall making this decision. And that's a great example of like someone who's purpose driven and says, I'm going to leave this town and this place better than I found it. And with hockey rink, like it's little things, or big things like that.
Well, I think it's important that people take the time to reflect on just what they stand for. Like, why do they wake up every day to do their best, or just wake up, period? But we have to realize where this all comes from, right? I mean,
Right.
We all should have some sort of foundational beliefs, things that, whether it's our values, the things that matter to us, the things that we strive to achieve, or people that we aim to connect with. I mean, that's why I've always said that we have to use both the head and the heart, right? And I've always learned that, recognition explodes and subsides while respect reverberates and multiplies.
Well, that's so true.
That the recognized man appeals to the head where things are easily forgotten, while the respected person gravitates to the heart, and the heart doesn't forget. And this is part about what purpose is, right? It's something that really fuels your soul to do what's right and do what's good. And by the way, what is my purpose? It's to create future legacies. So we all have one.
Yeah.
It takes time to create. But explain to us a little bit, Dean, of what regenerative employee experience means. When I learned this about you, there had to be something deep there. What does that mean, and what does that have to do with purpose?
Again, this will go back to Patagonia. I like to take a look at the company's business models, whatever that is, and do what I can to model the HR and the people model as closely as possible. So I use the same language, I use the same iconic kind of thing. So at Fossil, we had this irreverent culture. So the HR brand was a little irreverent. And obviously at Sears, it was a little different, and we kind of took on some things. But Patagonia had this purpose to save the planet. So what they realized was by making sustainably made puffer jackets, we're actually saving the planet. We're actually killing it slower than everyone else. And everyone's feeling really good about the sustainably made puffer jacket, but it's still extracting something and to some level killing the planet. So Yvon Chouinard came out and said, you know what? This is going to be a 100-year company. 100 years from now, we're probably not going to be doing this, because if we're just killing the planet slower, this isn't working. So he said the future is food. And there's a concept called regenerative agriculture. And what that means is traditional agriculture grows a seed. The seed goes into the ground. It grows this beautiful microbial community inside the dirt to pull in nutrients for the plant. It grows and comes up into the air, and then it takes carbon from the air, pulls it into the plant, and puts it into the soil and enriches the soil with carbon, which feeds the microbial community. The plant grows and it has a beautiful piece of corn. The farmer says, thank you, rips the corn off and slices into the ground. And then all the carbon goes out that was sequestered, and the microbial community is killed. I feel like this is so much like the annual performance review. It's like, it feels like, okay, how did you perform? Great. The company rips a piece of corn out, says thank you, and kind of tear into it. And a lot of neuroscience says it takes us 6 months to recover from the conversation from the performance review. Our level of like energy goes down. It destroys the relationship between the manager and employee. It's just a terrible moment. So it occurred to me, and this is called regenerative agriculture. If we go to no-till farming and we kept the carbon in the ground, we use cover crops, a lot of processes, what happens is you don't need as much water. You don't need pesticides, and you don't need fertilizers to help the ground grow. It takes some time to do this and take some investment to do it. But if the entire world moved to regenerative ag, we'd actually reverse climate change. And I thought about this about like human beings, the nature of work. And Jeffrey Pfeffer wrote about this from Stanford, dying for a paycheck. We're literally killing people at work. So here's what happens. We have to spend tons of money to fix them. So actually, nature of work is killing people because it's extractive. Then we're like, oh my gosh, we've got this wonderful Bennett program that now that we're killing you, we're going to fix you. We're going to fix your physical health and your mental health because we kind of broke you. But by the way, we're going to charge you a little bit for this too. So since we are responsible for this, we're going to charge you for the fixing of the things that we broke. So my view is, what if we were not so extractive in the performance review and even the engagement survey? What if we just talked about employee experience and what's it like to work here? And is it a restorative, regenerative experience? Which is where the question came from. As a result of working here, this company gives back more life than it extracts. So that's fundamentally, if we can ask that question and people come to work and go, I'm better off for this. And if we pretend, who the heck knows, if like we're going to employ employees for the rest of their lives, let's just pretend that. Like what I think we sometimes think is, okay, you're going to be here a short period of time. We'll extract as much as possible, and whatever's left over from you, the next person can deal with. They go through another extractive process. And so you do this over and over again, and you kind of not work much at the end. And like, oh my gosh, it's we completely extracted as much. We're going to get a younger one and we replace you with one of those because we've extracted you for all this time. So anyhow, I think since we're going to live longer, you better be taking care of your human beings, because if we just have these extractive experiences, we're going to pay more costs in healthcare. Mental health is tanking, and we're spending so much money on these things because we are extracting. Still have extractive experiences where, my view, the more you can put more into people's lives. And by the way, when we focused on that at Guild, even though we had, substantial changes in the workforce and the tech industry all had a huge go down engagement, our engagement scores went up 5 points, and sense of belonging went up 13 percentage points in a single year.
Wow.
That doesn't happen. And we just focused on regenerative practices for a year.
So how do you bring into the organization the importance of purpose to people's work, and how do you operationalize that? I mean, I'm sure there's some way to find scale. How does someone get started?
I speak at a lot of graduate business school, people in grad school. So I speak at USC and UCLA, and recently at Columbia. I'll be speaking at Stanford, and I say, you are all future leaders of companies someday, or you're leading them today. What I hope for you is you find a way to set a purpose for your company. Why does it exist, and why do you exist, and why did you create this company? And I create a model for here are the 4 reasons. Here's what a great purpose looks like. It is differentiated and unique. It is something that someone else doesn't do, maybe. It is something that has some good in the world. That's the definition of purpose. And then you have values which come together, which are the kind of brother, sister to them, which are the behaviors that match your purpose. So I said, every single article says that purpose-driven companies make more money in the long run. People are more attracted to purpose-driven companies. They stay with more purpose-driven companies. They tend to perform sustainably longer in purpose-driven companies. So the data says that this is actually a really good business reason to do it. So if it's not just the human reason to do this, which is a wonderful reason, and I'll talk a little bit about the power of wisdom and how we lead into that in this moment, but we need to be more human than ever as technology and machines dehumanize us. And what I hope for things like AI and other things enable us to be more human than less. And if we don't take a role in navigating and managing some of these techs, we're going to become less and less human. And we're coming to that blob on Wall-E that kind of blows around.
Yeah, it's
And
true.
that's not what I want for humanity. I think we have a better future than that.
Well, and look, let's face it. Right now, everyone is trying to not only find their purpose, but know who they are. I mean, when you work in highly standardized environments that don't care about purpose, people lose their identity in the process. And what you're trying to do is say, wait a minute, identity matters. Who you are as an individual matter,
Well,
and we have to no longer ask you to fit the role, but the role needs to consider you. Am I following where you're going with this, Dean?
Well, I do think that. I think the experience needs to follow you. So you may have like the job that I do every single day, but I think you need to know that I have kids at home and I may need some flexibility in doing that. I may have a sick parent. I may get cancer. I may have like all these things that we're dealing with in life. I think making space and flexibility to understand the ebb and flow. And if you look at things in the long term, not like a 3-month leave that someone needs to take because they're sick, like if you look at this as a long-term investment in a human being, then I think that yeah, that's why this matters. And that's why I think people want to work for purpose-driven companies. I think us realizing that one of the good things about Zoom is we could see people's babies in the back. And we can see their lives. You can see some of the stuff that's important to me. And obviously art is important. And I think that we saw some level of humanity that we didn't see before. And I think that we need to continue. That was actually one of the good things from COVID and from this moment in Zoom. We see more into people's lives. I just think that we hire humans. We don't hire like robots, and that's a good thing because we're going to robotize a bunch of stuff, and with AI and even VR, which terrifies me. I love AI. VR is a little scary to me, but here's my point. AI and technology can do a lot of things for a human being around the access to knowledge. We can have robots that kind of do some stuff to information and learning are going to be ubiquitously available. But we are all going to be faced with paradoxes, all of us in work, in life. And so the uniqueness about the human is taking these two things that are equally challenging to figure out. Like there maybe isn't a strong right or strong wrong on this. And that is what makes it beautiful to be a human being is we get the moment to apply wisdom, which machines can't do. I tried to ask ChatGPT what wisdom was. It was a terrible answer. And to try to ask a wise question about it, and it did not come up with a very wise answer. The matter was super weird, but we are uniquely able to discern right and wrong. We are really uniquely able to do that. And some of the things we're faced with in the world, the challenges that we're given, like mask or not mask, vaccine or not vaccine, this political situation, are you on this side or that side, and social economic issues, all these things coming up. I just think that, at some point you have a lot of grace for where other people are in there, where they're finding kind of their need to deal with paradox. And I think that's the wonderful and beautiful part that's left over for human beings is we get to apply wisdom, and wisdom is actually the application of things for good. The more wisdom we apply in the future, and I think it's going to be needed more than ever. And I think we've kind of forgotten about this concept of wisdom. And I think we need to lean into wisdom and purpose and values in ways that we never have before.
Well, you're validating one thing, many things, but one thing is clear. We are in the process right now of transitioning from a knowledge-based to wisdom-based economy. Dean,
Yes.
it's no longer just about what you know, but what you do with what you know. And
Right.
why is that so important to know if an organization is interested in becoming a purpose-driven organization? Because what matters to the individual is what's going to shape that purpose-driven environment, what's going to give other people the courage to say, hey, wait a minute, my title is, I'd like it to be not the standard way, but what matters to me. How about chief purpose officer? We're going to start seeing the
Yeah.
humanization of the workplace as we finally take the time to invest and see and know people and what matters to them. And where I was going with that, does a role define the individual, or is it the other way around? You're
Yeah.
proving to us today that it's actually the other way around, because what's the point in doing a job the way it's always been done if there's someone like Dean that comes in with this magnetic way of helping us all understand the importance of being purpose driven? Why can't what matters to Dean become part of the role? And this is what I believe is the opportunity that we miss during times of uncertainty. We have capacity, unleash it. Don't define people's capacity, because how can you find purpose if you constantly feel suppressed based upon what other people want you to do rather than unleash what people want to be? And I think that that's what I'm picking up from you, Dean, is that if we
Why not?
can't all be purpose-driven organizations, how can we find any level of sustainability in what we do? Because that's what your message around regenerative employee experience is all about. I'm just trying to tie it
Yeah.
all together here,
Yeah.
Dean. How am I
And
doing?
you don't always get to work for a purpose driven company. I worked for Sears and Kmart. That was not a purpose driven company. I think, and there was, what we did is, we did what you can control. So I could control my 2,000 people on the HR team. It was a big company. It was $42 billion, 270,000 employees, but this is what I can control. And I just see, you know what our purpose is going to be? We're on the Titanic. Let's just face it. This thing is going down and we all know it. Let's just be transparent and we'll do what we can. But here's the commitment I'll make to all of you in this really challenging moment. We're going to be the band on the Titanic. We're going to be the best dang band ever. As a matter of fact, we're going to take the things that's challenging around volatility and volume, turn it into the best data company, HR team that you've ever seen. You are going to be the best drummer. You're going to be the best trombone player. You're going to be the best tuba player. And I promise you, at the end of this, you will be better for it. And when this ship goes down, that what you go into will be so much more grand than the one you came into. And that is my promise to you as a team. And they, all of a sudden, turnover went down, people were engaged. And on the Titanic, we had a fabulous experience with this team. And we just chose to reshape the situation. And how can we be amazing even on the Titanic? We knew it was going down, but we also made commitments to each other around how we were going to do amazing work and support the people at Sears and Kmart as much as we could in wonderful and beautiful ways. And we did that. And we won awards for our work. We were written up in MIT for the work we did in data and analytics. We formed an organization with Northwestern University that still exists today as the top #1 place where people go for data and analytics. We just got into what we do well, and we ended up populating numerous heads of HR all over the country or people in senior levels. And everyone, I think uniquely remembers that as like this really incredible experience on the Titanic.
So as we get closer now to wrapping it up, Dean, tell us about that experience that you had that really took your own learnings about purpose to a whole other level with what happened with Patagonia on Black Friday.
Yeah. So a few years ago, there was a election that happened, and so Black Friday was right after the election, and we were really concerned about the new administration and how it was going to treat the planet, and because that's what this person said, they, things were not going to go well, particularly around public lands. So we thought a lot about what we're going to do. Should we put up black curtains, and what should be the response? And Patagonia gives 1% to the planet, 1% of revenue, not profit. Even if we're not profitable, Patagonia gives 1% to the planet. So people go through pretty intense onboarding. We talk about, and we hire people who are activists and are climate activists and understand to do a little bit more than recycle. So they are they understand. Actually, if you don't believe in climate change, Patagonia's a terrible place to work. Don't work there. It's terrible. And everyone's going to be talking about it. So, I mean, the conversation is not just, if you don't believe in climate change, it's a rough place to work. If you do, it's a great place to work. So we were figuring what to do. And there's a small group in marketing talking about, okay, what do we're closing the stores. And someone said, what if we give, 5% to the planet? Another person said, what about 10%? And a new person to the company 6 months in said, what if we give 100% of all the revenue all across the world of the planet? And the head of marketing was like, that's an awesome idea. And sent a note to the CEO, and the CEO, Rose Marcario, said, I love that idea. Let's do it. Send a note to the founders. Yeah, let's do that. Okay, that decision got made so fast. And we gave away, we thought was going to be $3-4 million, which typically what we would have done on Black Friday. We gave away $11 million.
Wow.
And that was that year we made record profits, record revenue, and we brought in all these new, very, very loyal fans of Patagonia. And so, sometimes when you're leaning on your purpose, there's a bunch of people who agree with that, and there's people who don't. And so when you're really in your purpose when 20% of the people don't agree with you. And I think that's okay. You can have a purpose. Not everyone needs to go, okay, I 100% aligned with that. But what you need to do is stick to your purpose. For example, and one more fun example, one day we got a call from the press, came through us, like, who it was, but they said, have you seen what's in the news today? We're like, what? Someone pulled back the label on a pair of your shorts and it says, vote the assholes out. Like,
my goodness.
And we're like, what? And it said, this is vote the assholes on the back of this pair of shorts. On the tag, this is Patagonia, but the back of the shorts says vote the assholes out. And we're like, we didn't know about that. And so a designer decided to put that phrase on the back of a pair of shorts in the tag, and it went all over the world. And so anyhow, they're like, okay, cool. And it was all over the news. Patagonia has the thing, and they didn't say it, but they would just flip the picture of the tag.
Yeah.
And we got a lot of media coverage, and we sold all those shorts, and people wanted more. And because they're a collector's item now. So anyhow, the person who did that didn't ask permission. They just did it. And it was celebrated because they know the purpose of the company. They know what we stand for. You don't have decisions get made faster. Decisions get made right. Decisions get made to drive the business. Decisions made to lean in. When you're strong in your person, people are so clear about the decisions to be made because of purpose.
Well, what you've just given us today is a masterclass on how purpose-driven organizations can create sustainable cultures that not only elevate, but help people discover who they are, what they stand for, and what they solve for. Dean, as we wrap it up, any final comments or wisdom that you'd like to share with the audience?
Well, Glenn, thank you for this. And one thing, I think we're not done with tumultuous times. This wasn't the last pandemic. This wasn't the last kind of socio-political challenge we're going to be dealing with. This isn't the last kind of, we're just going to be continuing dealing with the chaotic world, I believe. And it's going to get more chaotic, more climate issues, all these things are going to continue. But in those times, if you have a really strong anchor and a strong purpose to deal with challenging moments in time, and you set that intention with the people that you care about around you, then it makes it so much easier to deal with difficult moments and difficult times. It doesn't pull you into this deep level of depression on it because you're like, I'm still able to live my purpose, even on a Titanic. So in challenging times, if you have an anchor for purpose and like why I exist, and you go back to that, we're all going to be just fine.
You've been an inspiration today, Dean. Really, really appreciate your time and insights.
Thanks, Glenn. Thank you.
As we close every show, when you lead in the age of personalization, you will see things that others don't. Do what others won't, and keep pushing when prudence says quit. Thank you, Dean.
Thank you, Glenn.
Thanks for listening to Personalization Outbreak. Make sure to subscribe so you never miss a show. If you enjoyed the content, visit ageofpersonalization.com to check out our free streaming video series and learn how to get involved in the movement. I'm Glenn Llopis. I wish you a good day, and remember, without strategy, change is merely substitution, not evolution.